They're used to people putting pressure on them, and they're used to killing their own people.
On the position that I believe that there might be a chance of some sort of a change, which is the Russian position, the Russian and the Chinese. Although actually what we asked is that the Syrian problem became a domestic issue in Russia. It is part of the election campaign, which is going to take place in a few days. And the Russian blood is being used as a way of really trading between Russia and the West in general, because there are so many other issues, unresolved issues between Russia and the Western. So I think that there might be a possibility that they will become more ready to discuss business in more pragmatic way, the Russians.
I agree 100%, but what I feel is that they have surprises.
They have lots of investments and interests in the Arab world. They cannot continue taking such a position. The stakes are too high becoming, and those who are really trying to capitalize on some differences that are between the Shiites and the Sunnites is not going to really bring, in my opinion, bear fruits. Up in the hands of Hezbollah, it's not going to end up in the hands of Syria and not in the hands.
Going to speak to Reuters today, and we'd like to ask you first about your assessment of the situation in Syria and how worried you are about the consequences for Lebanon.
I believe that the situation in Syria has reached to a point where it is impossible to get back to the situation that prevailed before March 2011. It's not at all possible. And I think that the regime there and the president has failed to benefit from the experience that he has seen taking place in so many other Arab countries, ranging from Tunisia to Libya to Egypt to Yemen. And he missed several opportunities. And what could have been dealt with and solved at the very beginning, since the outbreak of the incidents in Daraa, I think there hasn't been a serious effort to benefit from the events and try to really solve matters and take the country towards real reform. So many opportunities and chances were missed. Now, practically, the regime and the opposition has reached a stage where everybody is at an impasse, and including all the other stakeholders in what's happening in Syria. It is appearing to be impossible for the regime to really take a real step towards I would say that what could have been possible to deal with the matter and to move towards reform has been missed, and it is too late now for the regime to change itself, because by changing itself it will not be possible for him to stay in office. So he is at an impasse, the regime, and the opposition cannot go back on what it is demanding, because it will be again a real nightmare that will be practiced by the regime against the opposition, and it will be very violent, much more violent than what it is. On the other hand, the position that's taken by the Arab countries, I think it went to an extent where the Arab countries cannot go back on what they have already put. And the international situation has taken a place where they have already taken so many measures and sanctions, and it's not possible for them. On the position that I believe that there might be a chance of some sort of a change, which is the Russian position, the Russian and the Chinese. And I think what the Russians did is unlike what Russia traditionally used to take in the old days during the Soviet Union, when they were siding with the people rather than with the regimes.
Yeah.
This is the first time in which we see the Russians are taking a position supporting the regime and not the people. So the matter has taken a different dimension, where the Syrian problem became a domestic issue in Russia. It is part of the election campaign, which is going to take place in a few days. And the Russian blood is being used as a way of really trading between Russia and the West in general, because there are so many other issues, unresolved issues between Russia and the Western. So I think that there might be a possibility that they will become more ready to discuss business in more pragmatic way, the Russians. On the other hand, I believe that with time, how long, nobody knows, but probably some months, in which there will be some sort of a convergence among a number of factors. One which let's say, the Arab position on the one hand, the international position, and more importantly, probably the efforts to unite the Syrian National Council on the one hand, and the coordination committee, which is the various groups within Syria, towards creating more of a united position among the Syrians. Mind you, what we are seeing in Syria, like what we have seen in other Arab countries, that this is a revolution or an uprising rather than it is a coup. It's not a coup d'etat. We have been used in the Arab world to several coups, which is an officer on top of a tank, he comes and occupies the TV station.
Sure.
Now this is something different, particularly against regimes that has been in office for something like 40 years. They have been well entrenched and able to establish a police state in the real sense of the word.
Assad can survive?
I don't think he will survive.
But how long has he got? How much time?
I believe in the, it's very difficult for anybody to say this, but I believe that this is going to take some months. And the regime is getting tired, the sanctions are biting, the credibility of the regime is eroding, and the army is getting really tired. It's true that the opposition and the people are getting tired as well. But this is a situation that cannot last for long, as such.
And what do you think the West should be doing now?
What we really want from the West is to stay very faithful to its principles. They talk about democracy, they talk about human rights. They should really stay faithful to that, and not to shift grounds, and not to try to change positions from every now and then. And we don't want to support, because this is going to end up in the hands of Al-Qaeda and the rest. I think this is very unhelpful. And this is very damaging, I would
But
say.
should the West be arming the Syrian opposition?
See, the regime has resorted to violence from the very first days. And mind you, I'll tell you something, that the uprising, when it started, unlike all the other uprisings that took place in Libya or in Tunisia or in Egypt or in Yemen, in these four countries, it took them probably a week or two before they started claiming or asking for the downfall of the regime. It is only in the case of Syria that it took 3 months, which tells you what